Good afternoon. Right, come on, let's start this properly. Good afternoon. Hey, that's all right. We're going to get better by the end. So, are you ready for this? We have 20 minutes between you and lunch, so let's make this a good one. So let's try again. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, so in the first 30 seconds, we're going to discover what a human workplace is by acting one out. So, are you ready? Okay, hands up if you've had a good day so far and you've learned something. Hands up. Keep your hands up. Other hand up if you're excited for the weekend. Okay, so part of a human workplace is about participation and communication. So everybody needs to be present, so keep your hands up and stand up, please. Everybody up. No excuses. Everybody on your feet, please. Okay, then I want you to turn to somebody, keep your hands up, and I want you to give them a massive high five. Thank you. I want to hear those high fives. Okay, so participation, collaboration. Oh, you can all sit down, by the way. Participation, collaboration, but most important, celebration. When you've done something good, celebrate it. So I want you to celebrate yourselves and make so much noise that everybody who is not in this room wonders what the heck is going on. So celebrate yourselves. Noise, yes, this isn't shouting. Very good. Fantastic. And that is why human workplaces are important, particularly in an AR world. So, welcome. My name is Andy Swann. Thank you so much for spending 20 minutes with me. I research the relationship between people, work, and organizations because it's something that really interests me. I discovered a while ago that people go to work, and the first thing that people say to them when they're outside work is, "Oh, what do you do?" And then your answer, people already judge you. I'm an accountant. Oh, well, in that case, I'll put you in that accountant box, and I'll go and talk to somebody else over here because they'll be more interesting. And I realized that as I looked at it, people are much more than their job description. This little piece of paper that lists the tasks you have to do every day. Actually, you're much more than that. So I came up with this idea of being your pixelated self, mainly because I like having pixelated graphics that remind me of video games in the 1990s. But humans are complex. We're much more than the job descriptions we have. So this is me. I run a company called My Amazing Team. Oh, my name's Andy, by the way. I run a company called My Amazing Team. We work with organizations to help them create the future. We do some big, crazy projects all over the world, and that takes up a lot of my time. We have offices in the US and the UK, so I'm kind of moving a lot. So that takes up a lot of time. But I'm also really interested in people and their stories. So my podcast, the Life Work podcast, where I just talk to people about how they got where they got in life, actually launches on Monday. So that's something else I do, but it's not necessarily my day job. And then I had the opportunity to write a book where I could research some of the biggest, most complicated companies in the world and discover how they're creating the future through being more human. And we're going to share some of those stories in a minute. And then also have 4 kids, 4 amazing kids, but they're a handful, and I really like spending time with them. And sometimes one of them needs to go to the doctor on a Monday morning, so I can't be in the office at 9 a.m. And other times, they're doing something on Sunday, so I get time to go to the office, but I work on a Sunday. And all of this kind of started pulling together, and also I like to run, and I like to go out in the countryside, but I'd rather do that during the day sometimes, and that takes some time out of my workday. And actually, we're all people. We all have this big experience that goes beyond day-to-day work and tasks. So to the idea of going to work at 9 a.m., finishing at 5, Monday to Friday, actually isn't in keeping with the demands of our lives. And actually, what we really need to do is be able to work at our best. And to be able to work at our best, we need to be able to connect with our organizations as humans. So this is a quote from the book. I studied all these big companies, Coca-Cola, the BBC, Hershey's, CGI, who else do we have? NBC Universal, loads of huge organizations, Schneider Electric, who you heard from yesterday. And the quote was, "A human workplace may actually thrive if it embraces automation, as it can allow people to focus on the things that people do best." So despite the fact I was looking at how we enable people, one of the big conclusions was, actually, technology is the big enabler. And we hear all of this stuff about artificial intelligence and the rise of it, and we get really scared, because we're told that robots are coming to take our jobs. So, quick poll in the room: hands up if you like your job. Okay, not even everybody. Okay, keep your hands up if you love your job. Okay, keep your hands up if you get up every single day and you jump out of bed in the morning thinking, "I can't wait to go to work." Well, we have some of them. You people are amazing. You're in the right places. So, and that's the thing. People who come to an event like this, they're doing this for personal development, for professional development. So you people, I could assume, would be engaged in your work. Now, even in that respect, we all don't necessarily, even people who are engaged in their work, don't necessarily love their job to the point where it's their everything. Because actually we're humans. We have other things to think about. So we've heard other stats, but the stats will tell you, depending on where you read it from, around 15% of global workers are engaged in their work. So around 85, 87% of global workers are not engaged in their work. So 87% of people in the global workforce don't like their job. Now, the global workforce is estimated to be 3 billion people, give or take. So that's 2.61 billion, or 2.67 billion people who don't necessarily like their job. Yet at the same time, we're hearing all of these stories about how the robots are coming to take our jobs. Why is that a problem if we don't like the jobs? So, the prediction on robots are that 800 million jobs will be automated by 2030. So if 2.61 billion people hate their job, and even the people who like their job don't love every single part of it to the point where they want to jump out of bed in the morning, why are we scared of the fact that less than 1/3 of the jobs people hate might be replaced and mean they don't have to do those jobs? Because we're suffering from the legacy of the original Industrial Revolution, whereby processes were invented to compartmentalize everything and break things down into little elements. But unfortunately, there weren't robots to do those jobs. So people had to stand on production lines, and people had to pack boxes, and people had to do processes. And as we've developed companies, these processes keep developing and controlling us. So people get procedure manuals, and this is a little part you play, and then it goes on down here, and you do this, and there's a chain, and you play this little part. You're not a whole. So people get compartmentalized. We have to strip our individuality, and we just contribute the bit that we contribute, not part of the whole picture. Now, a friend of mine, Nikki Hemmings, who is an organizational psychologist, has worked in some really interesting companies, she said, I mean, you can read that for yourselves, but the more you add company processes, the more you take away autonomy, creating XY responses. Because actually, process is for robots. Artificial intelligence is really good at following processes. And we heard yesterday how when the process doesn't work, it gets taken out of service and gets reprogrammed and put back into service because artificial intelligence doesn't yet have the capability to think for itself and self-improve. But as humans, that's something we're really good at. But the less we're allowed to be humans at work, the more we have to be into processes, actually the more we become robots. So a lot of our potential as humans, our potential to think, to react, to collaborate, to communicate, all of these things are diluted. Now, in an age where innovation is a huge buzzword, and the creation of new products and services and being the next big thing is really important, if we're stifling out the basis of our creativity, that then stifles out the basis of our opportunity to collaborate and to innovate. So process is actually turning us into robots, but the great thing is the rise of the robots mean we don't have to be robots anymore. So artificial intelligence, far from being a scary thing, is actually really, really helpful to helping us work. And some amazing companies are using it in really cool ways to make the minimum viable. So we are guilty of too much structure, but by using data, we can have less structure. And when you break it down, as I researched my book and I looked at these large organizations, as you break it down, what is a company? It's a platform for people to get stuff done. All it is the right people in the right place, doing the right things, and it's all held together by information and communication. And if you can, let's call that data, if you can automate that data or support it with automation, it binds everything together. So let's share a few ideas. If you get this right, this is all it takes to create a company. And I know you'll say, oh, this is a very simplified view, but that's what I do for a living. I simplify these things, and I get a new perspective on it, because the guilty thing we have is where we've overlaid process and process and process and turned humans into robots. So my job is to simplify it, and that's what we're going to do. So the right people in the right place doing the right things is all you need, and it's held together with information and communication. So the right people. There's a really nice story. We've heard loads of case studies already about how we can use artificial intelligence for onboarding the right people, for finding the right talent. I won't go over that old ground, but I'll share a really nice story with you. Unfortunately, part of the marketing materials of my company and the way we go and work with huge organizations, but we tell them that we'll never tell anyone we're working with them and we'll keep it all confidential. So I can tell you this story, but I can't tell you which major company it's from, but it's from a really great company. So the vice president of global HR at this company realized that the HR department, which is about 1,000 people, covering the global HR function around the world, was spending a lot of its time just doing paperwork. They were ticking boxes, they were making sure that forms were filled out, and that those kind of things were getting done. And actually what she really wanted was for the HR department to be more supportive of their people. So she wanted to turn the HR function into coaches, so that actually the people of the business, the global organization, had somewhere to go to get coaching to help support their learning, development, and performance and contribution with the organization. So to do that, you needed a shift from paperwork and process to actually something far more human and far more collaborative and communicative and empathetic and caring and all these things that aren't robotic. And in order to do that, she needed to free up the time for her HR department to rethink and retrain and become this coaching function. And to do that, she automated the back-end process, because a lot of it was box ticking, making sure that letters were sent, making sure that documents were provided, that notifications of certain things happened and that certain tasks got done. And wherever you have a task or a process, it can be automated. And that automation actually allows people to contribute far more as humans and then create a far more successful organization, because the performance of the humans becomes the focus as opposed to just getting stuff done. And there's a company in the UK called Marcus Products who have completely automated their entire back end. So they have one system that they've developed themselves. I think they spent about £1 million British pounds on it. But they created their own system that runs their business. They went from losing money with 30 members of staff to making a huge amount of profit from 7. And that's because the people they then retained in the business were the people who were working on the business and taking responsibility for the innovation, for creating new products, building relationships with clients, actually manufacturing and demonstrating the products. And I know, yeah, even manufacturing can be automated in a lot of times, but it allows people to focus on the things they need to focus on, and the back-end admin, which actually nobody likes doing. People do admin jobs. It doesn't mean they like it. And actually, the stuff that people didn't like doing became automated, and the stuff that really pushed the business forward, people were able to focus on. And then you have place. So this is Amsterdam in Amsterdam. Does anybody know or work for WPP at all? So WPP, the global advertising creative group, has companies like Ogilvy and people like that. They are now creating campuses because they realize that in order to thrive, people need an environment where they can come together. And actually, they're putting different companies, even some that compete with each other, into this huge new campus building that has over 40% shared space. It has all the entertaining and restaurants and bars at the top, so you can actually go there to socialize. Everybody gets the best space. It's not reserved for the CEO. The river views are actually space for everybody. It's not someone's office. So it's a great building where collaboration happens, and it gives people the opportunity to connect and come together and do great work. It was designed by a company called BDG in London, who are doing a lot of similar campus development. So if you've got the right people and you're enabling them through coaching them, you're giving them the right place to come to. And equally, a place can be virtual. You don't need to go to a physical place. People at WPP are enabled to work remotely, but they're given this kind of clubhouse to come to where they want to come, because that's where the connection with the organization is best. That's where they can do their best work and collaborate most and feel excited and have this range of tools and environment to do their best work. So if you get the right people, you create the right place, and you get them to do the right things. And now the right things aren't just a list of tasks. Strip it back, work out what's important, but enable people to do it in their own way. By focusing on what they need to do, not the task, and actually what they need to do to create their outcomes, then you allow people to create their own experience. Because how I work may differ to how you work if we're doing the same job. Two people in the same department might achieve the same outcome in very different ways, but if you enable both of them to work in their own way, and that creates the same outcome, then everybody wins, because the worker's more happy, the worker's more engaged, they get more done on their own terms, and the organization wins. So the actions people take has to be carefully considered. It's not just a case of, here's a spreadsheet of what we need to do, let's get it done. I used to work for the National Health Service in the UK. I used to run medical records departments for one of the major hospitals. And my boss used to come to me with a spreadsheet and say, we need a 2% improvement on the number of medical records that your department is finding. And actually, I knew that my staff were running around the hospitals trying to find medical records that had been taken off site, they hadn't been tracked, all of these problems that when you look at it on paper, a 2% improvement is really simple. But when you go and look at how it affects the humans, what they're doing, actually it's really, really difficult. But understanding the actions that were required to create that outcome weren't with the medical records staff, they were with the doctors who were running off with the medical records. They were around communicating with the organization how important it was to track because how that has a knock-on effect. So the actions you get people to do aren't necessarily just the obvious tasks as it looks on a spreadsheet. So right people in the right place, doing the right things, bound together by information and communication, because by bringing in artificial intelligence and systems that enable this human connection, collaboration, remote working, people to create their own experience, then you're enabling the organization to perform at its best. So I want to take the last few minutes to get you all involved. I want you to think about your own organization. We're going to create your AI-powered human workplace in 5 simple steps. Sound good? Oh, come on, I haven't put you to sleep. Does it sound good? You got 5 minutes till lunch. We can do this. Okay, so the one most important thing, actually understanding your purpose. Why are you all there? Why does your organization exist? Profit is not the answer. It's okay to make profit. You hear about purposeful organizations like Patagonia who give 1% of all their revenue to their specific charities. You hear a lot about not-for-profits. It's okay to make profit, but your organization needs to be about something else because you have to define your mission and what your organization is about because that allows you to build your community. So all of you think about why your organization exists because that helps tell you who you align with. No organization in the world can align with every single human being on the planet or appeal to them. So there's no point trying. What you need to understand is how does our purpose make us behave? Because that will tell us the kind of people who want to come to work with us because they align with us. And it also tells us who are we going to sell to. And you know what? The people we sell to may be the same as the people who come and work for us. And people can flow in and out of this community. They're not mutually exclusive. A customer can become an employee. An employee can be a brand advocate. All of these things flow together. So once you have a purpose, you can define your community. Define the parameters about the actions you take. So don't start with complexity. Don't start with all of these processes and complicated documents. Start with the basics. What are the absolute things that you have to do to get the work done? And that doesn't necessarily need to be working hours. You know, if you're running a manufacturing machine, it probably has to be in a certain location and run at certain hours. That's a parameter. However, if you have somebody who can work from a laptop and doesn't necessarily have to be on the phone to certain clients at certain times, that's not a parameter. Give them the freedom. Start with absolute freedom, then build in the absolute parameters you have to, i.e. don't kill anyone, don't break the law, get things done. So basic parameters based on your behaviors. Focus on actions, not about outputs, because good actions create great outputs. You know, profit is not what you focus on. You focus on the action it takes to make the profit. And actually, the actions will tell you how much restriction you need to put on people's time and the parameters you need to put around the activity they do. But keep it as simple as possible. Because what you're building here, and this is stage 5, you're building a platform for people to thrive. This is where you go, what are the systems we need? What are the tools we need? How can we automate as much of this as possible, not to control people, but to give them the best possible experience? Microsoft, a data company, gathers information on their employees, not to control when they're logged in and how they're working, but to give them the best possible working experience, to suggest meeting rooms, to suggest quiet locations in their offices, to help them organize when they're having conference calls. You're building a platform for people to thrive, because when people thrive, the organization thrives too. There is no example where that is not the case. Because if everyone's able to do their best work, the organization does its best work. So if you want to talk about it simply, it is that simple. These are the things you need to do to catalyze your human workplace, and I'm able to run through this with any of you at any time. Understand your mission, understand the mindset and how you're going about it, understand how you're going to approach this. Is it going to be quick? Is it going to be slow? Do you want to do it step by step? What's enabling or blocking you at the moment? Because that will define how these new things are adopted. And a spoiler alert, they're both the same things. They can work either way. What tools do you need to do it? And how do you get everyone all in on being part of this? Because success depends on it. And this is the time for the last big case study before we wrap up. And unfortunately, it's your case study. And the most important thing I can ever say, because there's so many options for artificial intelligence, for automation, for systems, for actions, for the ways of structuring your organization, there is no one better to create that but your individual organization. Create your own version. Don't put a slide in your office because Google had a slide. Put a slide in your office because it will help your people do their best work. Build your own experience. So go away, build your own case studies, but share your challenge with us. If you want to take a photo of this, share your challenge with us. My team will help give you some advice and give you some freebies. You're more than welcome to talk to us at any time. But most importantly, let's talk. Everything good comes from conversation. You've had a 20-minute burst of what is an organizational transformation and the future. So your mission is to go away, shape your own future. Please feel free to talk to me at any time. All my details are there. But most importantly, go and have lunch, and thank you so much for your time.
Ja, nå